In the year 1990, shows Philip Seymour Hoffman as Bob Odenkirk watching Chris Farley as himself, heavily inebriated, tearing up his own Chicago apartment. Hoffman: "Gee, Chris, do you really need to be throwing your furniture around the apartment like this? How is that going to help you get on SNL?" Farley: "Beer is great!" Hoffman: "Oh, I know beer is great, Chris. But you should get some sleep before Second City tonight. You got to stay sharp for Matt Foley." Farley: "OD wants me to sleep instead of have some fun. Well, la-di frickin' da!" Hoffman: "Okay then, Chris. Well, I'm going to be on my way then." Farley: "Wait!" Hoffman: "Yeah?" Farley: "Do you think John Belushi is in heaven?" Cuts to Belushi in heaven circa 1990, drinking a beer and reading a Playboy while relaxing on a hammock. Gilda Radner approaches and says, "Hey, John, do you have a minute?" Belushi sits up and says, "Yeah, what's up, babe?" Radner: "Well, there's this guy who's in Second City named Chris Farley, and he idolizes you." Belushi: "Oh, that's sweet." Radner: "But anyway, he seems to sort of have a problem with drugs and alcohol." Belushi: "You don't say." Radner: "So I thought maybe you could haunt him for a bit, make sure he stays on the straight and narrow, and doesn't succumb to his vices." Belushi: "Well, gee, Gilda, I don't see a bat signal up anywhere. I did my time down there, and now I'm just trying to relax up here. But I'll tell you what, as soon as I get tired of drinking beer on this hammock in this perfect weather, I'll get around to it." Cuts to heaven circa 1993. Shows Belushi laying on the hammock, drinking a beer, reading a Playboy magazine. Radner approaches Belushi and says, "Hey, John." Belushi: "Hey, babe, how are you?" Radner: "Well, remember a couple years ago I told you about that guy Chris Farley, who was in Second City, who idolized you?" Belushi: "I have a lot of fans, Gilda. I don't remember who you're talking about." Radner: "Oh, well, not only does he idolize you, but he also gets a little crazy with drugs and alcohol. And he made it on SNL, and he's been great. He even had an iconic sketch where he danced with Patrick Swayze." Belushi: "I did plenty of dancing as Juliet Jake." Radner: "No, I know, John. I'm just saying that Chris on Tuesday nights at 30 Rock keeps getting naked and shitting everywhere. And I'm afraid it's just a matter of time before he gets himself fired. Maybe you could haunt him for a little bit?" Belushi: "Can't you just haunt Danny or Billy or something and get them to talk to him?" Radner: "But you're his idol." Belushi: "Okay, Gilda. If the weather here ever stops being perfect and I get bored of my hammock and beer, I'll see what I can do." Cuts to 1997 with Chris Farley hosting SNL in a sketch as El Nino, who says, "For those of you who don't habla español, El Nino is Spanish for the Nino." Cuts to Belushi in 1997 heaven in his hammock drinking a beer and reading a Playboy magazine. Radner approaches him and says, "Hey, John." Belushi: "Hey, babe, what's up?" Radner: "So you remember Chris Farley, the guy who idolizes you and was on SNL, right?" Belushi: "Can't say that I do." Radner: "Oh, come on, John. There's a Beverly Hills Ninja ad right there in your magazine." Belushi: "Oh, Chris Farley. Of course, of course. He seems to be doing well. What about him?" Radner: "Well, he ended up getting fired from SNL, and they brought him back to host tonight, but I'm afraid it's just a matter of time until he dies at 33, just like you did. I'd really appreciate it if you could get off that damn hammock and go haunt him. Belushi gets up from the hammock and says, I'll see what I can do. Cuts to 8 weeks later. Shows Gilda Radner laying on a hammock in heaven. John Belushi and Chris Farley approach her. Belushi says, Hey, Gilda, I want you to be my new buddy, Chris Farley. Radner jumps out of the hammock, hugs Farley, and says, Oh my God, Chris! I've been following your career since Second City. How are you? Farley, I'm doing mighty good, Gilda. And I wanted to thank you for sending John after me to get me to die. Radner, what? No, I sent John to keep you alive. Belushi, now Gilda, I remember you saying you wanted me to get him to die at 33, just like me. Radner, no! I wanted you to stop him from doing that. Belushi, oh, whoops. Farley and Belushi laugh and say together, Dead from the earth, we're not alive! It's Saturday Not Alive, starring John Belushi, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Jen Hooks, Norm MacDonald, Gilda Radner, Danitra Vance, and with many special deceased contributors, musical guest, DJ Twitch, and your host, Penny Marshall. Everybody, Penny Marshall. Applause, applause, applause. Marshall. Thank you, thank you. I was an American actress, producer, and director, best known for my role as Laverne DeFazio on the sitcom Laverne and Shirley. For directing films such as Big, Awakenings, and A League of Their Own, and for producing films such as Cinderella Man and Bewitched. Applause, applause, applause. Marshall. And I want to bring out some people for some applause. Khalid El-Mislam, a Qatari journalist who died suddenly while covering the World Cup, and Stuart Margolin, an American film, theater, and television actor and director who won 2 Emmy Awards for playing Evelyn Angel Martin on the 1970s television series The Rockford Files. El-Mislam and Margolin come out. Applause, applause, applause. James Garner comes out. Applause, applause, applause. Garner. Hey, Penny, I wanted to help you out. Marshall. Well, sure, James. What's the problem? Garner. Well, I want you to watch out for Stu here, because on the Rockford Files, he played an untrustworthy, pathologically lying con artist whose schemes constantly got me in trouble. Marshall. Okay, I'll be sure to remember that. Thanks, James. But you better watch out, too. Garner. And why is that? Marshall. Because Khalid here was just covering the World Cup, and it looks like that's gotten very dangerous. As Garner leaves, he says, I'll keep that in mind. Marshall. Folks, we have a great show tonight. DJ Switch from The Ellen Show is here. So stick around to see if you can dance. We'll be right back.